Why should or must the SoCal community attend the world premiere of Galilee 34 at South Coast Repertory Theater?
The SoCal community must not miss the world premiere of Galilee 34 at South Coast Rep, because I mean the talent alone that's on this stage, you're gonna love them. Like it's this incredible group of actors being wildly funny and really deep and moving. And it's gonna be like a wild, joyful, emotional ride, and then give you so much to talk about and think about and read more about after you leave. I do think it's a play that really stays on people's minds, and that people keep kind of coming back to and thinking about long after it's ended. I think people should come check out Galilee 34, because I think that in this moment in time in particular, having a place to come where we can kind of wrestle together with the difficulty of being human, and the mysteries of it and the struggles of it, and wrestle with it in a funny way that's fun and touching and moving and deep, and kind of reconnect with our own humanity and reconnect with kind of that task of like being in a society together and being in a world together, and how hard it is to share a world with people that you disagree with, and yet the fact that that's sort of central to existence. I think that's more necessary than ever. I think it's a wonderful time for people to come together and see a funny story about a family trying to make a difference in the world and all the bumps they run into along the way. And with this cast, that's going to be doubly true. It's going to be one of those ones you remember forever. So do not miss it. Hi, I'm Eleanor Burgess. I'm the playwright of Galilee 34. And if you want to learn a bit more about it, give a listen to this conversation.
Can you tell us the beginning of the play, and as much as you want to give to the audience listening?
So Galilee 34 is set in Galilee, specifically in the town of Nazareth in the year 34 CE. It's some months after Jesus's crucifixion, and several of the disciples are living in the Virgin Mary's house, and trying to remember as much as they can about what Jesus told them, and trying to figure out what to do next and how to preserve his legacy, advance his legacy, and they don't agree about a lot of it, about the right, about what exactly he would have wanted, and about how to move the cause forward, hopefully without endangering too many of them. And they're kind of lost and a little divided and in active mourning, and uncertain who's going to step up and be their next leader. And then this guy Saul shows up, Saul of Tarsus, and Saul says he wants to help, and Saul has some ideas. And the play follows that moment, the moment when sort of leadership, there transfers or splits from especially James or Yaakov, Jesus's younger brother, to Saul, and the beginnings of that divide, which makes it all sound like really solemn and serious, and it's funny and hopefully very human.
Can you cover the themes of your play?
Oh gosh, I think the play really looks at a bunch of things. It looks at which narratives win out and which narratives maybe get lost or forgotten or very consciously ignored. It looks at some of the Jewishness of Jesus's teachings that would get kind of carefully stripped away, at the number of women followers who were very close to him, who wouldn't get to write their own gospel. You know, we don't have an official gospel of Mary Magdalene. We don't have an account from Jesus's mother about his childhood. So it's sort of about the moment before the stories get settled and agreed upon. What are all the stories that could have been told that didn't win? And it's about how you do good, and a bunch of people who are trying very hard to do good and to be good people and to please God and to live up to their friend's legacy. And, you know, does it look like being a revolutionary and a rabble rouser? Does it look like being charitable? Does it look like being, you know, spiritual? Does it involve tending to the people right next to you? Does it involve going to powerful figures and trying to talk to them? Does it involve you know, tending to bodies, tending to souls? Can you be a good person if you're fighting with other people about how to be good? You know, if people who are all trying to be really holy are at each other's throats about it. And I think the biggest theme in the end is also just humanity, you know, looking at these often sanctified figures as people who are capable of like jealousy, forgetfulness, pettiness sometimes, you know, crises, feeling lost, feeling grumpy, feeling vulnerable, feeling annoyed. You know, it's putting humanity back onto these stories and imagining them as like just people who are a lot like us, and doing their best.
Tell us about your actors and the director.
Oh, we have an amazing team. I don't even know where to begin. So our director is Davis McCallum, who is just a both lovely and brilliant human being, and really has this sort of dead-on eye for grounding the humanity of these stories that could easily become very like, oh, and pompous and, you know, just keeping it really human. He's the artistic director of the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival and has done a ton of beautiful work off Broadway that often looks at sort of tensions between kind of faith and reality and the high and the low, and brings so much brilliance to interpreting the play. I also want to shout out our dramaturg, Charles Hogland, who's director of new work for the Huntington Theater, and like just a wonderful, brilliant dramaturg for a play that has a ton of history and a ton of context. And he's amazing at sort of helping to illuminate what people need to know and helping to give them permission to kind of be free from the history when it's not helping the experience in the room. Our cast is incredible. I love them so much. Amy Brenneman is playing the quote unquote Virgin Mary, Jesus's mother, sort of a grieving mom who in her own eyes taught Jesus everything he knows. Teresa Avia Lim is playing Mary Magdalene, who, in my understanding of her, which is kind of grounded in the Gnostic Gospels, thinks she was to some degree almost like a co-prophet with Jesus, who helped him with his ideas and inspired him. Ben Pelteson's playing Shimon of Bethsaida, Saint Peter, who's very proud of being the first follower, but who also has, as he does in the Gospels, several crises along the way where he kind of lets Jesus down and runs away and is kind of grappling with his guilt over that and his how much he misses his friend. Eric Berryman's playing Yaakov, Jesus's younger brother, who a lot of people are looking to, will become, he's known as James the Just, and will become sort of one of the major leaders. A lot of people are looking to Yaakov to lead after his brother's death, and waiting for him to sort of step up and step into the shoes of the older brother who he had a complicated relationship with. Raviv Ullman plays Saul of Tarsus, St. Paul. It's a kind of brilliant man with too much energy, too many ideas, who's sort of desperate to make this a success, and who never met Jesus but feels like Jesus is speaking to him. Sharon Omi is playing Elisheva, the mother of John the Baptist, who has a very different perspective on these revolutionary young men and whether they are smart or foolish. Jeremy Rabb is playing Matityahu, and Ezra. Matityahu is St. Matthew, and Ezra is a local rabbi, and Cruz is playing Linus, a Roman legionary. And they're just brilliant. They're brilliant. I don't know what else to say because it's just an amazing cast. I feel so lucky every time I get to hear these words in their mouths because they're so right for the roles and bring such spirit and intelligence and grace to the rehearsal room. And they're unmissable, in my opinion. Do not miss them.
What do you want the audience to get out of your play?
I hope that the audience laughs a ton and has fun at the theater. I think they will, especially with this cast because they're so funny. I hope that the audience is moved by the ideas and possibilities on display, by the sense of what we could be, what we hope for, what we maybe lose along the way, what we've lost in kind of the sands of history, by kind of the daunting task of being human and like trying to get up again the next day in the face of what happens to us, and sort of taking a moment to process that is a daunting task. And then I hope the audience leaves with just so much to talk and think about. I hope that it's a jumping off point for a ton of conversations about, and people have already, people come up to me and talk to me about their own background with religion, their own struggles, joys, what means a lot to them, what they've always had trouble with, and kind of I hope people leave with a permission to go back to these iconic stories and look at them with fresh eyes and find new details and see new possibilities and kind of bring their own ideas and interpretation in.
What do you think will surprise the audience about your play?
I've mentioned this before, but I think people might be surprised by how funny it is and how kind of down and out, and just you hear like Saint Peter and the Virgin Mary and you think like they're going to be very serious and very pious, and they're, in this iteration, they've got gripes, they've got complaints, they've got achy knees, they've got, people in the group who annoy them. So I think that the fun of it all will surprise people. I think the things that are historical and are accurate to the Bible might surprise people, because there's a line early in the play, none of this happened, but all of it's true. And that's sort of a touchstone. I'm messing with some basic facts of the historical order of things a lot, and I kind of don't care because I want to tell the story I want to tell. And people have messed with these facts before a lot. But at the same time, there's also a ton of tiny details that you're kind of like, oh, that actually is exactly how it happens in the Bible, or that's actually like exactly how things went in history. And I think in general, the ability to sort of see things with fresh eyes that we think we know is what I hope that people will be surprised and delighted by. Is like, you can think you know a story and then it's told differently and suddenly it's a very different story, and yet it is the same story. It's not like we're making up a new story, but the fact that you can come to these very, very familiar people and see new things and new possibilities and new angles to look at them, I hope will be really exciting for people.
I was going to ask, for those people of faith, what do you want that audience to get out of the play? And are there Easter eggs for them also?
Oh, I love that question. So there's a ton of Easter eggs for people who are people of faith, people with familiarity with the Gospels, and the letters in the Book of Acts. People who are and people who are familiar with the Tanakh, people who are familiar with Hebrew scripture, people who are familiar with the history too. Like if you're like a Roman Empire nerd, if you're devout Jewish scholar, if you're a devout Christian, like I think there's a lot of little things that are extra fun for you and extra illuminating. There's kind of a whole other level the play is operating on, which is like, oh my gosh, that is exactly how that story is told in the book of John. And oh, that is what that's going to become. I think that for people of faith, it's especially exciting for people who already have some familiarity with these stories, or a lot of familiarity with these stories, to have a fresh way of looking at them and a fresh perspective on them that sort of, I think, encourages, hopefully, a new, deeper appreciation for certain elements of the teachings, or of, what could have been and what was. And the characters on stage are people of faith, having very ancient struggles that people of faith have always had about, how do I actually do this? Like if I'm very, very eager to embrace these books and these teachings and to do it right, what does that actually look like? Because I keep trying and sometimes it doesn't go well, and I'm confused about exactly what God wants from me and exactly why I don't understand certain things. And so I think the people on stage are all people of faith struggling with the things that people of faith struggle with every day. And so I hope that people will find a lot of grace, really, like for our humanity and our failings and our trouble with these things that we've had trouble with from the very beginning. And so much of the play is about the distance between divinity and humanity, and between our aspirations and who we actually are, and trying to find some level of like, how do you make peace with that? How do you live with that? How do you keep trying even when you're always going to fail, is so much of what the play is about. And I think it's, in that sense, hopefully offering a lot of grace for people of faith who can see their own struggles on stage and their own high moments and hopes, and the things that they question, the things that they wonder about, the things that inspire them, the things that they're striving for.
Your play and the other two plays are anchoring the Playwrights Festival. Tell me why it's so important. It was important to you to be part of that festival, and what are you looking for during the whole festival?
I'm thrilled to be part of Pacific Playwrights Festival for umpteen reasons. One of them is there's been, since the pandemic, a real loss of new play festivals, new play experiences, and there aren't a lot of places where a bunch of people who make theater come together to watch it and talk about it in large numbers, and especially not in like exciting, hopeful ways, but what could it be and what's in the pipeline, and what are we excited about, and what do we believe in. It's really singular at this point. So the idea of kind of gathering to celebrate new plays, and not just one new play, but a bunch of new plays, is so special. I'm really excited this year because I get to actually see the other playwrights' plays. Last year, I was the last reading in the series. Galilee 34 was the last reading in the series. And so I was in rehearsal when all the other readings happened. And there were playwrights who I admire and whose work I love in the building doing new plays, and I couldn't go see their work, and I couldn't support them, and I couldn't check out what they were doing, and it was hard. I'm grateful for the time, but that's just how the schedule worked. And so this year I'm so excited to see everyone's work and to see it in conversation. I've already read the descriptions of some of the new plays, and I'm fascinated by kind of the overlaps and parallels, some with Galilee 34, with Prelude to a Kiss, with a bunch of other themes. I just can't wait to hear 5 new plays in a weekend and meet a ton of new play people and see what theater is up to and where it could go. I'm gonna have a great time. I've just found it to be, you know, a building full of people who are total cheerleaders for the art form and for what it could be and for new plays and, you know, for imagining exciting new possibilities for the theater in a time where it's easy to be pessimistic or careful in, you know, what you hope for. People who kind of have a blue sky approach. It's thrilling. And I think for audiences, I mean, Pacific Playwrights Festival is a place to see the future. Like, it's where plays could go. It's where kind of new playwrights who are coming up are it's a chance to catch them and say, like, I saw them when, you know. And it's such an exciting, like, there's just people are doing exciting things and taking huge swings. And yeah, it's a place of like humor and excitement and possibility and grace. I've said that word before, but I do think theater is a place where you can feel that, and it's going to be awesome.
Is there anything else about your play, Galilee 34, that you want to mention?
It's fun. The play is fun. The play is a lot of fun. Yeah, it's fun and it's deep, and I think people will really enjoy it. I'm Eleanor Burgess. I'm the playwright of Galilee 34, which will be at South Coast Rep from April 21st to May 12th. Come check out a show that is funny, heartbreaking, potent, and graced with the most brilliant cast I've ever seen.